Yo, what up, family? It's Joselito with another episode of Bodega Cats. I think this episode is a hot mess. Or it's going to be a hot mess like the last one, but we'll see. We talking tonight about grading. I know nothing about grading, so I'm gonna sit back and observe and learn some things, and hopefully, it won't be terrible. So join us. Wait.
Bodega Cats Comic.
Meow.
There was a little bit of a delay on there because I had too many overlays open and, new software.
Yeah, see, I mean, I'm thinking
a hot mess.
I thought it is a hot mess. I don't know. Shit, look, see, it is a hot mess. I guess I should clarify when I said grading. I mean, obviously, comic book grades and how they're determined, who determines them, what council of secret comic book blurs and nerds come together and make these decisions, right? So it's almost like the Geneva Conference. So that's what we're doing tonight, right? And I'm a newbie to that. I will admit I am a comic book fan, a comic book reader, a collector in the sense that I collect to enjoy and to read, but not to collect for actual dollar value. So I'm gonna sit back and let these two brothers do what they do best and take notes that I will never apply to anything else in my life. So
relax and take notes while I tell people to like and subscribe. Make it happen, y'all. We want to make sure that we're doing this. We're already doing it because we enjoy it. We jumped the shark last week, but we want to make sure to keep doing this with y'all, and we just want to know that you're enjoying it. And we got to pay the bills, so I'm bringing back an oldie but a newie. I found No Name Grocery number 2. Woo! So not just the same one we've been repping. Shout out to them and having 2 locations and expanding. Woo! On their bodega-ness. So
so they sell Spanish, African, and American food. Those are very broad and very ambiguous and can be, but I love it. It's how we roll. That's
a hookah. If you look real close to the left, there's Oreos, Pringles, and a hookah.
That's it. Everything.
They also sell cigarettes, phone cards, and credit cards. I don't know how you sell credit cards, but they got them. So talk about grading. Los, you've been probably doing this longer than us, and I've learned from you, and there's things that I don't know. And I think part of the conversation is of all the people doing this grading thing and so many people leaning into the 9.8 based on the variety of what is what and the price and the market dictation. We're really going to lean into, is it worth buying a 9.8 or are you buying the book? I think it's a conversation we've always had. So I'll shoot it to you.
Yeah. So I mean, that's pretty much what we're doing, right? We're basically talking about this whole grading, atmosphere. Grading started roughly 22, but in the year 2000, right? So 22 years, going on 23 years now, and it is a third party that takes our collectibles and assigns a value to them, and that value over time has become a gauge to how much the book is actually worth in a monetary sense, right? So before this, everything was raw, and grading is very subjective, right? So the way I grade might be different from the way somebody else grades. And what this is, it takes that, I love this book so much that I'm going to grade it at a high value because I think it's worth this. It takes all that out of it, right? It's supposed to take the emotion out of it. It's supposed to take any kind of feelings you have towards this book or whatever it is. It's supposed to take all that out, have a third party grade it, and give you a value, right? And I want to say over time, I feel like that has become more comic collectors have moved away from buying a book because of the book, and they're buying it because of the grade, right? And that has kind of, I don't want to say it's kind of like distorted the hobby or anything like that, because it's literally a $1 billion industry, right? The grading comics has blown up significantly, and there is a monetary value towards everything, right? It does a 9.8 of a book is going to sell more than a raw book or whatever it is, just because it's already assigned a value. So there is that part of it, but there also is, some collectors that will just encapsulate their books because they want to preserve them, right? They're not looking for the grade, they're just looking to encapsulate them, right? So that means it's going to be preserved, it's not going to fall apart, especially these older books. So there's that aspect of it too. So, and there's different grading companies. We can kind of go over that as well. There's CGC, which is the top dog, CBCS, who was the number 2. I'm going to call them number 2. You have PGX, which I know nobody likes to talk about, but they are a grading company. And then you also have EGS, which is another grading company that has gotten started. It was a member of the community who collects comics, stuff like that. And he actually started his own grading company. And, good cases, everything, nobody has anything bad to say about them. It's just that they are not as known, right? And it's hard to come up in this field when there's so many big dogs out there already. But so that's the I guess the general history of grading comics, if you will, in just kind of a brief condensed thing. Obviously you can probably go more into it, but just a broad, grading aspect of it and what a third party grading company will do for your books. So
got it. It's so funny because I know there's the grading companies and all that, but there is a gentleman that I've seen on Instagram. I think was it Custom Slab Comics, and I think his slabs are better because he makes the custom label and everything. And if you just want to have the book, not worry about the grade, but still preserve it, it's also something else that other people are doing. So you don't always need the grade, and I think that's one of the most important pieces. Jose, I know you got a collection. I know you got it stored in a box somewhere. If you went back and you saw,
it's like scattered to the winds. It's like that scene in the Justice League movie when the 4 races of man come together and they take the mother boxes and they scatter them across the world. It's kind of like that. They're all over the place.
Yeah. Would you, if you went back and knew there was a high grade, high value current book, would you go get it slabbed?
So are you asking like from the context of now or like me back then?
No, now.
No.
I don't speak to the past that often.
No, I don't care. I'm
No?
not that. No. No.
New 98, whatever.
I am. Because if you would ask me that question when I first started my comic book journey, we talked about this episode 1, and we talked about how, the things that got us into comics. And I think when I was in high school, when I was old enough to start earning my own money, that was when I had and I will say I had a very brief interest in like finding high value comics and trying to preserve them. But that ended pretty quickly. I'm just in a space where I'm like, nah, this is fascinating from a, an investor perspective, but I also, I'm good.
That's fair. Yeah, and honestly, there's plenty of people, right? There's also that debate, right, where it's like, hey, I'm keeping all my stuff raw, I will never get anything graded. Then there's people that are like, hey, I only grade my high value stuff, or I only grade books that are kind of brittle and they just want to preserve them. Or there are people just like, hey, I'm fucking grading everything, I want my whole collection graded. So there's all range of collectors. And I know there's and then there's the in between, right? It's like some people grade some books, some but there's all kind of range. There's no right or wrong. Obviously it's your collection, you do whatever the hell you want with it. And there's some people like, hey, if you get it graded then you can't read it, and understandable, right? It's in case you can't take it out. But with this day and age, with the digital copies and stuff like that, it's really easy to read a book without having to damage it. So there's give or take. Obviously back then, before we had digital copies, you couldn't really do that, right? So that's when the whole raw versus grading was kind of like, damn, it does kind of suck, because once you encapsulate this shit, it's not coming out, you're not going to take it back out. You just spent money to do that, and you didn't have another way of actually reading it unless you bought another raw copy. And sometimes these books can get damn pricey. So, but now with the digital copies, where it's like, hey, I can download the Marvel Unlimited app, the DC app, and all this other stuff, and I can, have 35,000, books at my disposal. So buying a book and getting it encapsulated is not really as like bad. I know there's some people like, oh, I need the feel of the book in my hand. Well, okay, I mean that's an individual kind of deal, but when it comes to like grading and having it raw, right now there's really, with the digital age, it doesn't really hold up anymore. It's just saying, oh, I'm never gonna grade a book because you can read it now digitally and not harm your book if you want in that regard. So, but I get the whole I'm never gonna grade it just because it's just pricey or whatever, or I'm just not in a state of in a monetary sense, like I'm not in that kind of state of collecting, right? Like I have my collection for reading, I love it. I'm gonna keep it like this, and it's fine, right? Like, yeah, if I have high value books, that's fine. You know, I don't need to, you know, have it graded. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you're not in that mindset of saying, hey, I want it a 9.8 or this or that because I know that's gonna increase the value. And it's like I don't care about the value of it. I care about the book and the story and stuff like that. So and I think that aspect of it.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the space that I'm in now. It's almost like how I think about it when people, you know, you got your diehard like sneakerheads and they collect, you know, sneakers. Like and they got like closets full of sneakers, and you know, some of them are unopened because they, you know, they you know value those. So you know what I'm saying? I'm like, I don't give a shit. I just need something to wear. But that's just my perspective, right? And I think also, you know, I'm in a space where, to your point, Carlos, I'm just like I read for the love of it, for the artistry, for the storytelling, and you know, the valuation of the comic book in terms of dollar. Yeah, I'm not really doesn't, you know, yeah. I mean, it's interesting how it became like its own sort of, in a way, its own industry of sorts. But again, my perspective is, you know, I approach it from a purely like, you know, I read it for the love of it and not, you know.
And honestly, I like that perspective of it, right? Because we have gone to it feels like it has flipped, like this hobby has flipped to where it's like most people see everything as investment first, and then kind of like the stories and the art and everything kind of like fall behind. Whereas before it was always, you know, stories, art, that's what I'm reading it. And the monetary aspect of it wasn't really that big of a deal. It's like, hey, I just want it. I want to collect the whole run. I want to finish reading this or whatever. It wasn't necessarily about the money. And now it kind of just like flipped. And I think, you know, the grading industry is what really flipped it. You know what I mean? That's what really kind of like flipped the whole market as like, hey, these books, yeah, they're cool and their history and their art and stuff like that, and they're great stories, but they're worth something. And now we're encapsulating and we're giving you this value, this number that says that it's even better and it's worth even more now because of that. And I think that got people into the industry that maybe they weren't in the industry as far as like the love of comics, but they were in the industry like, hey, this is a good investment. I can make money off of this. And then maybe they kind of got into the hobby and reading and stuff like that because they were getting into so many books and like, oh, this looks interesting, and they kind of start reading. But they might have got into it in the investment first and then reading, instead of the opposite way, which most of us did, is reading first and then investment came after.
It's so funny that y'all shared. I remember one day I'm on the bus in Chicago and it's New Comic Book Day, and I see someone sit down, and then he like leans and rubs in his pocket, and he pulled a comic book out. And I was like, this man had a comic book rolled. And I was like shaming him. Like, I was like, how dare you? I'm all judgmental because now I'm grading comic books at the time. I honestly, I went through your account, Lo. So I was like, yo, I got these books, submit them to me. That was the day you came over and the kids were about to do arts and crafts on that 7 to Eternity 1. Like they were about to just cut it and stuff. And he was like having a heart attack in my kitchen. But also I remember it being an art piece, and Los knows this. I had one of the Wizard World Young Avengers 9.5s just sitting in my office for years. And then I was moving. I decided to sell it, and out of nowhere it blew up because now it became this really rare thing. But it was like $20 the day before. Now it's a $4,000 book. And even on top of that, it's like, one, this was like an incentive thing. There was only a few of them, and no one cared about it until someone said it was special. So now the exclusiveness of it is there, but then we're talking about high print runs. We're talking about people dropping in so many books and submissions. Like, let's take the Black Panther 3 Tosin recently came out. People went out and bought a ton of those. Raw books are selling for 80, and then the 1 in 25 is selling for 700, and then graded it's selling for what, 2K?
2000, yeah.
Yeah, and nobody even like can tell me what happened to that character after. And the better copies were the like second and third prints of it, because they did what they did with Riri, where they did the comic book panels and they put Shuri on there, and I think that's just a great cover. But I think a lot of books that are high value and in cases, I think we talked about it in one of the episodes where we were talking about what was it, the Wolverine? No, Spider-Man, right? We're talking about Spider-Man and the price of that, and some of the stories don't even hold weight. So it's like, what are you really doing, and how much of this is herd mentality, which is also an interesting thing. So yeah, we talked about the grading companies, we talked about the books, we're talking about the 9/8s, the 9/9, the elusive 10, the thing that they give 1 out of every million books that are graded because they want you to have a Willy Wonka golden ticket moment. But let's talk about it. So I think one of the things we wanted to do was compare prices between things that are at the 9.6, 9.4 range, see what they're going for 9.8, and ask the big question: are you buying the book or are you buying the grade? So I'll start. I grabbed a few books. I probably grabbed too many. I grabbed some books that I bought over the last year.
You can never grab too many books.
Huh?
You can never grab too many books.
Yeah.
You can never have enough. You see this fucking pile behind me?
And that's the thing. So,
that's not the shit that's on the floor.
But wait, so because I love every time we get together on this, what the fuck is this? Is this a podcast? Is it a YouTube? What is this shit? I don't even know. Every time we get together on this thing, right? I always find myself looking at your background. Because for me, as an appreciator, as someone who loves the medium, right? I love that. Like, I would love to just be, and I want to read it, but I'm like, no, I can't touch it because I'll ruin the value, right? So I'm looking at it from that lens of like, yo, like, I want to read his stuff, not I want to trade. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I know, like, as soon as I sniff on it, it's like, oh, it goes down a decimal point. I'm like, oh, I can't touch that.
Right? It's like taking a car off the lot. The minute you go off the lot, it just lost $8,000.
Yeah, it depreciates the moment I look at it. So
you can read any book in these boxes on my floor, because I decided to be that guy that bought 10 copies of a bunch of shit. Now they're all worth 50 cents, but whatever.
Nice.
Let's grab the first book here. So I grabbed this book for about $35 a few months ago. I want to make sure. The light terrible here. There we go.
There you go.
Oh no, still. There we go.
Oh,
Miles
good.
Morales, #1, 4th print, the Garin variant. And we got Rhino here, got Miles down on the floor, getting punched up.
No.
And for some reason, let me see if I can share. Oh, I don't want to invite people. Let me present. Screen, black screen, share. And where are we at? Miles Morales Spider-Man with #1. So this 9.4 right now is listed at $175. And then there is a 9.2 for $49. What is that? A 9.6 for $189?
Yep. 9.6.
And another 9.6 for $250. I paid $40 for this.
Yeah.
$40, right? So why did I want it? Because one, it's a 4th print, which I know is a lower print run. It is the first Miles Morales book of this series, and I think it was just wrapping up. So I wanted to have a first issue that was graded. So I made sure to grab this copy. And like I said, $35 is less than the cost of grading it. So shipping it down to Florida, doing everything that I need to do, it just made a lot of sense to do that. And then the next book I have, get rid of that overlay, Victor. The other one I have, we actually went to, what was it, Fan Expo recently?
Yes.
And we're at Fan Expo, and there's a bunch of books, and I've been trying to collect BIPOC characters, and there was some Riri Williams books. There was the Scotty Young at a 9.8. They wanted $400 for it, right? There was the 1 in 10.
The 1 in 10.
$400 for the Scotty Young at a 9.8. They wanted 3 something for, and I'm going through this guy's boxes, and I find
the 1 in 10. The 1 in 10 was a 9.6 too. It wasn't even a 9.8.
It wasn't even a 9.8.
It was a 9.6.
Yeah. So I go through the boxes and I find this, and it's a 9.4, and I already know that this book raw is going for what, $80, $90?
some depending on the condition, it could go all the way up to like $150 or whatever, something like
right.
that.
So I'm looking at it and I'm like, nah, I'm gonna ask how much this is. Dude said $100. So like if I was robbing somebody, I said, yeah, I'll pay for it. I swiped it, paid 106.9 something because of tax in the state of Massachusetts. But right now, again, she just came out in the trailer.
Yep.
So recent books, right? Like posted. There's a 9.8 sitting there for $550. Another one for $579. I'm not paying that. I don't care. I am not paying any of that. And what is that? The last one's another 9.6 at $375.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's crazy.
These are all prices I'm not paying. I'm not. I'm broke, son. And then this last book has a very special place in my heart because it pissed Carlos off when I bought it. And any book that does that is always great. Oh, snap. Hyperflex. So me and Carlos are in this dungeon place where this dude is like watching us pull out these boxes because they were like the back issue bins are poorly stacked. They're all high. They're disorganized. They have tables, but the tables are also full of books. And
I was waiting for somebody to get hurt pulling those long boxes down.
Yeah, I was like, it's time to go. I'm tired of this. I ain't find no good books. The best thing I found was the infamous Iron Man second print for like $5. And I was like, you know what? I'm leaving. I don't care anymore. So I go to the front and I'm like, ooh, there's a slab book. It's an America Chavez 2 at like a 9.8 for $75. I was like, that's a deal. But then I go over and I see a $50. I see another book. It's a 1 in 25. I already knew it was a hard to find ratio variant. And I was like, yo, my man, how much is that? He was like $50. And again, like I'm stealing something. I said, I'll take that right now. Swipe my card. I thought he was meant $500, but it was this 1 in 25. Totally awesome Hulk. Again, first team appearance of a group. And this joint sleeper. If you go on Key Collector right now, the book alone, raw, is said to go for $300. The listings are ridiculous. I don't think people have been paying for them. But if you look at it right here, we see a 9.8 1700 CBCS has 2 books over $729. And I'm not gonna lie, this is not me promoting. That 650 is mine. So if anybody's watching this, you want to buy it, holla at your boy, send me a DM and we can work a deal.
Hey,
but it's been up for sale.
It's the lowest one there. It's the lowest one there.
And it's gonna hit, and somebody's gonna be like, yo, remember that time there was one for $650 and I ain't buy it? Unbreakable promoted it on his YouTube channel. You know what? It's very difficult because we didn't like or subscribe. Make it happen. Jesus, people. Those are my 3 books. Los, what you got?
Yeah, those, I mean, again, right, and that I feel like it's one of those things, right, where I ain't lying. There's the price tag. But it's one of those things too, right, when it comes down to our industry, right, the grading industry has almost conditioned, right, these collectors to gravitate towards that 9.8, right? Resellers and LCSs and everything, you want the highest grade, right? Because that's going to bring you the most return on your book. And as a collector that, if you're just trying to complete a run or something like that, are you collecting it for the 9.8, for that, prestige of having a 9.8 or whatever, or do you just want the damn book, right? And I think that's the thing we kind of fall back, like we kind of forget, because when we started collecting, there was no grading or whatever it was, and our thing was you had the Overstreet Price Guide, and you had a Wizard magazine, and everything was based on a 9.4, right? Near mint 9.4. That was the holy grail. That's, you got a good book. It was a 9.4, right? It was considered near mint. And all of a sudden, grading company came around and it's like, hey, there's such a thing as a 9.6, and it's near mint plus, and a 9.8, and it's, near mint plus, or, and then you got a 9.9 and gem mint, and 10.0 is a gem, great holy, grail book that just came off the shelf and is absolutely perfect. And all of a sudden there's like that premium for like, oh, I can get an even better book than a near mint. And that kind of like started throwing people off, and I feel like we kind of like spiraled a little bit. Whereas people kind of get that brainwash, like, oh, I need to get a 9.8, and it has to be a 9.8, and it's like, does it really? Like, does it really need to be a 9.8? You look at a 9.6 and you look at a 9.8, and half the time you will not tell the difference, right? And perfect example is two of the books I'm gonna show here, right? So we have Star Wars High Republic, #1, right? The Stephanie Hans cover, because I think this is the best one, best cover out of the 47 variant covers that they did for this one. I think this is the best one. You could fight me on it.
I also think it's the best one because you got me a copy, so thank you.
So you have a 9.6, right? I got this because I got a good deal on it, right? I think I got this for like, I don't know, $60 or whatever it was, right? $65 for a 9.6, right? But then I got a 9.8 copy, right? Because I bought these as a pair, and it came out to be a better price if I just bought it individually. If I would have bought it individually, it would have came out to about $140 or whatever the hell it was for a 9.8. But because I got a pair of this one and another one that came out to a lot cheaper, so I was like, you know what, I'll do it, right? I like the cover. I gave one away. Obviously, I gave one to Vic because I know he liked the cover as well. He liked this book. He liked the run. So, and he's my brother, so I'm like, I'm gonna give him an A-OK. But looking over both of these, right? I was looking them both over, right? And I mean, obviously, it's gonna be hard to tell in the camera. But what I noticed about both of these is they both had some waviness, right? Which newer books, especially a Marvel, their paper quality sucks ass. So there's going to be waviness on the book, right? That's just the way it is, right? You're going to get it right off the shelf, and it's going to have waviness in it, right?
It's like wax paper. You can see right through it half the time.
Like you can see it even there. I think I just dropped it, and you could kind of see the little fucking waviness on it already. But it was... Yeah, see, you see some waves and stuff, but it's no matter what, they're going to come with that, right? So normally you get dinged for waviness, right? That's one of the criterias of like 9.8s and all of the shit. Any kind of waves on the book is supposed to detract from it. Every grading company supposedly starts at 10.0. Every time they see an error or something wrong with the book, they minus. And looking at both of them, I see almost the same kind of like defects on either or. I honestly like about the same amount of waviness on both. There's no like color breaking ticks on them. It's just, again, on any given day, would I crack both of these out and resend them? Would this come back a 9.6? Would this come back a 9.8? Or would they flip flop? It's hard to tell because there's no real significant difference in either one of them, but you can see the price difference, right? You get one for half the price of the other one. They're the exact same book and they don't look any different, right? If I put these on the wall and covered up the grades on them and you saw them like, oh damn, those are pretty good books, but you wouldn't tell which one is the 9.8, which one is the 9.6. Like there's no difference, right? So are we buying the book or are you buying the damn grade, right? And honestly, like if you really want the book, paying the crazy prices for a 9.8, why? I mean, I honestly think that the 9.8 is more for prestige and more for saying that I got this book in a 9.8 than actually owning the damn book.
Yeah.
And that's just my personal thing. If you have the money to buy 9.8s, then fucking by all means go for it, right? I know I don't. But I feel like it became one of those things where it's like now it's a prestige thing, right? Like I have all 9.8s, or I have whatever, and it's like, do you just want the book because you love the character or you love the story arc or whatever? I don't know, right? And based on just going off of that, right? One of my favorite characters, Miles Morales, right? Half Puerto Rican, half black. I love this character, right? He's an amazing character. He's Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man, and it's a book that I always wanted. I had an Ultimate Fallout 4 first print, double signed, and I sold it. Right, it was a 9.8. I needed some money. I sold it. It hurt like hell to sell that book, but I kind of had a feeling that I could maybe buy something else, right, to just have owned the character again, his first appearance. So, watching an auction on eBay, and I saw a second print, right? And it's the second print, the white cover second print, not the unmasked cover. So watching it, and nobody's bidding on it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going for this, right? It's a Ultimate Fallout 4 second print. It's a 9.4 and it's a PGX, right? I don't own any PGX books, but I looked it over and I'm looking at it. I'm like, looks all right. You know what I mean? It maybe has some stuff or whatever, but it's a 9.4, right? I mean, I can maybe look it over and maybe there's some stuff that I can do, maybe some waviness. I can check on the PGX website to see what the graders notes are to kind of see what they put. But the fact that I got this book at a 9.4, right, for $140 because it was PGX, right? You can see a 9.6 for a 9.2, right? CGC. Somebody has listed for $170, right? 9.6.
Yeah, 8.5 CGC 140 plus
140. 9.4, right? 9. And I know people will probably staying away from this because it was PGX and they're like, oh, PGX sucks, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like when you get to a point with especially modern books and you get to a certain grade, right? 9.4s, 9.6s, it's such a high grade that I can probably crack this thing, no clean, no press, no nothing, send it to CBCS, CGC, and more than likely it's going to come back at 9.4. Maybe it comes back at 9.2, but more than likely it's going to come back at 9.4. Will I test that theory? No, because I don't have that kind of money to be fucking shipping this shit out all over the place. So I'm not going to do that shit, so don't ask. But it's one of those things,
right? Like a good clean and press. You use the drywall eraser or whatever we use, that sponge brush. Yep. Go in there, get some dings out, and put a little bit of steam and press it for 2 hours. It'll definitely be a 9.6.
It has a lot of white and shit like that, but I don't see any color breaks on the color part, right? When you have a spine tick on white, you just press it. You can't have a color break on fucking white. Unless it's like dirt or it's a rip. But it was one of those things where I'm looking at prices of like 9.2s, CGC at 8.5, like you said, a 9.0. And at the time when I bought this, they were all going for like 220. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, dude, there's a 9.4 right here. So like, I'm buying the book. Like, I want the book. Yeah, it's a cool grade. It's a 9.4, whatever, but I'm buying the book. I'm not buying the grade, right? And so I just wanted the character back in my collection. And it's one of those things where, like, I think people get conditioned to be like, hey, if it's not a 9.8 or if it's not a 9.6 or if it's not CGC or if it's not CBCS or whatever, like, I'm not going to buy it. And it's like, why? It's an encapsulated book. If you want, I can easily crack this thing out, clean and press it, and resubmit it to CBCS, CGC, and I'll have it back in my collection. And that other thing, I just have to pay a little more. Yeah. And even at that, I'm still probably paying less than what it will come back as. If it came back as 9.6 or 9.8 or whatever, it'd still be less.
With that though, right? Like, what's the risk of doing that if you're going to pay the price that you would have paid for the CGC book anyway? Because, like you said, you got to pay for it, ship it. It's $50 for standard. Then you got to wait, and then your book's gone. And then there's a chance that somebody fucks it up, and you get some neutron rings on it when it comes back. Yeah.
So I mean, like I said, it's a book that I wanted. I wanted it back. I wanted at least his first appearance back in my collection. And this was a good book to get. Now, there's potential that I do crack this out only because I might try to get it signed, right? Yeah. I want to get it signed. It's going to be hard to get all these creators. It's hard to get all these creators together. But I think this book is better to get signed than the first print because of all that white space.
Yeah, white space.
Right?
Yeah.
There's so much white space for them to sign. In his arm right here, they could be here, like all over the place. There's 6 guys, 6 creators. Will it happen? I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where, like, I would have to wait till most of them are at one show because I'm not going to get it signed and then cracked and then get it signed and then cracked. Yeah. I'm not doing that. But, that's how I see it. And then my last book that I want to show, it's another book that I've been looking for a while. I love this cover. I saw it was a 9.4. I didn't care. It was way less than everything else that was being sold. And it is Gamora #2. So
is that a variant or a second print?
No, it's a variant. So Francisco Matina. I believe this is a 1 in 25. I could be mistaken,
that's what it is.
But it was a 9.4. Raw copies of this book were going for $250, right, in high grade, and saw this 9.4, and I got it for $100.
Yeah.
Right. So you can see that raw copy down there for $160. Right. It says CGC worthy. Right. 9.8, $800. You know,
with all that black on it, I don't care how worthy anybody says something is. Like, you can't confirm.
Yeah, there's no way
a CGC book is. Grade it and then sell it.
So, but like I said, like, I wanted this book just to have it. I really didn't feel like paying, you know, $200, $300, whatever the hell it was, right? So a 9.4. I'm like, yeah, I don't care. It's less than a raw copy, and it's near mint. That's near mint.
Yeah.
Everybody keeps forgetting that 9.4 was the fucking gold standard back then when it was near mint, before grading companies. And all of a sudden now a near mint, it's like, oh, this is shit. Fucking near mint. Oh, I don't want a 9.4. That's trash. I want a 9.6, 9.8. Why? I want the book, not the fucking grade, right?
9.8 near mint.
Do I want this
near
trash?
mint plus?
You know what I mean? Like, do I want this trash? No.
Yeah.
But like, this is a nice high grade copy for $100. Like, I'd rather do that than spend the fucking $700 or whatever just because it's a 9.8. It displays the same. Like,
yeah. So everything pretty much 9.0 and up is near mint based on this grading scale. When we go to the next, right, near mint.
So the first grading scale that you did, Vic, was Overstreet.
Yeah.
Which was the gold
original
standard, right? Yeah. Before grading companies and all that stuff. This is what everybody went based off of, right? When you went to an LCS, you went to a show, they based all their prices and grades off of this, the Overstreet price guide.
Yeah. And then we got comic price guide, which again, all the way down to 9.2, near mint. And then CGC, talk about this, because I know you mentioned this is coming out and you know more than I do.
Yeah, so this is pretty funny. I got this, email, and it said that CGC, you can pre-order your copies of, the CGC's official guide to grading comics. And so you see Matt Nelson there, which was their head grader. They basically go over the same thing as like Overstreet and everything, but I guess this is CGC's standards, right? This is, I guess, what they train their graders to grade, books, different errors and stuff like that, kind of go over different things. Or obviously, different errors of different paper quality and all that other shit. So there's multiple factors involved when it comes to grading. But the funny thing with releasing a book like this, when you're a grading company, I feel like it leaves you open to more scrutiny, right? CGC has already come under fire for a lot of shit. And this feels like it's just one of those other things where it's like, I think it was maybe their way of trying to reaffirm, like, hey, this is what we're grading books at, and you can see what our standards are and stuff like that. But then at the same time, it's like, okay, well, what if somebody reads that book, pre-orders it, gets it, they read it, and they say, okay, based on your standards, right, and based on what you're saying a 9.8 or 9.6 is, the book that I just got back is a 9.4, and I have no grader's notes. Can you tell me why it's not a 9.8? Because I'm reading your notes saying that this is what qualifies for a 9.6 or 9.8, and I'm looking at the book right now, and I see nothing on it. So it should be, based on your standards, should be a 9.6 or 9.8. Yeah. And you didn't give me no grader's notes. So why? Is there some kind of like compensation? Is there some way that you can send the damn book back? How is that going to work? You know what I mean? Like, does somebody have I don't know, like legal definition of it? Like, do they have any kind of claim to say that, yes, maybe I can return it and get a better grade or something like that? I don't know. But I just feel like it leaves them open for some kind of scrutiny, well, more scrutiny anyway. So I thought it was just funny that a grading company will come out with their own grading book.
Yeah. So I love the language that's used in here. Like, they quote themselves and they're like, yeah, this book is the most complete, thorough, and authoritative examination of comic book grading ever published. It's not even released yet. So they're saying it's the best. And then it says it's a condensed version of the meticulous standards that CGC graders must learn. So that's their outright there. It's a condensed version.
Yeah.
And then they go on to say they're educating themselves so they can be better submitters and better collectors. It's like, so I got to grade my book before I send it to you? Ain't that about a bitch? So if I send you my notes and say, hey, cross-reference this, I want to be the 4th grader because I used your book. Now, are you going to uphold that? Because we paid for it. So
yeah,
everybody always selling some shit. No. And it's funny, I was going to share. So here's another example of a book that is probably crazy. So we have the Ultimates #2, 1 in 25, few first appearances in there. A 9.6 is $64. Free shipping, right? So 1 in 25, we'll say it's $25 plus grading. That's going to be the price of your 9.6, $64.
Yeah.
Boom, it's there. The 9.8, there's 2 other ones listed, $242 and $399. I might buy that fucking 9.6 tonight. I don't care. We'll go sell some Pokemon cards real quick.
But, and see again, that this is where the whole conditioning of, a 9.8 being better, than everything else, especially for like modern books, right? Older books, most people understand that, getting a 9.8 is probably out of anybody's fucking price range. But and understandable, right? Because it's really hard to get obviously a book from the 60s to be a 9.8, whatever, not too many. Most of the time people had them rolled up in their pocket, like Vic was saying earlier, when they were reading them back then. But we've been conditioned to believe that a 9.8 is the best thing you can get, and it makes your book so much more than just one fucking grade bump down, which is a 9.6. And again, like I just showed you earlier, a 9.6 and a 9.8, the same book. And there was almost no way to tell. Like, yeah, maybe there's some little intricacies, and I know they're gonna be like, oh yeah, they've been grading comics for fucking 30 years, blah blah blah, whatever. I've been grading comics for 20 fucking years. So, and I've been doing this. I'm starting to clean and press my own books now. So I submitted plenty of books to CGC. So I can see what they come back as, and I can see, okay, I'm looking over 9.6, I'm looking over 9.8, and I can kind of see their criteria a little bit based on that. But, when people start paying for that, like 9.8, I feel like it's more, you're just conditioned to think that 9.8 is better than anything else. And it's like, if you just want the book, why spend the extra money unless it's just for that prestige factor so that you can say, I have this book in a 9.8. Whereas instead of just saying, I have this book because I love it and I don't give a shit that it's a 9.0, 7.5, whatever, I just have it. Right.
Right.
So
I'd buy a 9.6 all day. And you should
it's a
remember,
good thing, right?
mine is the lowest on eBay right now, $650.
And it's a, I get, right. It definitely pushed the fucking hobby, further into the future, right? It definitely did that. It definitely increased the value of everybody's collection, whether it's raw or graded, because now people are in the back of their mind like, well, I can buy a raw book and get it graded. Now I just increased the value, X plus. So it definitely, pushed our industry, forward and the hobby forward. But at the same time, I think people just keep forgetting, and they keep get that conditioning of just like, oh no, it needs to be this. And it's like, we kind of have to just kind of backpedal a little bit and be like, hey man, like it's cool if you can get a 9.8, but it ain't the end of the world if you can't get one and you have to get it in a 9.0 or fucking whatever. Like, just be happy to have the book if that's what your true goal is, to have a collection, is to just have the book and not be like, oh, it needs to be this all the time. It's like, so and again, I'm not shitting on anybody if they do, if that's what they want to do and they have the money for it, then by all means fucking go for it. But don't make it the end all be all of fucking collecting and be like, oh, that's what it has to be. It's like, come on.
That's funny. Like I said, start getting 10s, start giving away 10s, CGC, figure that shit out. So yeah, we all heard it. We know the argument. You're buying the book, you're buying the grade. It's up to the buyer, right? We're not going to sit out here and dictate what the hobby is. Some people read digitally. We know Jose is a big fan of doing that, and shared it with us. He was like, I'll pay $1.99 for that book. So we
Venom, absolutely, I'll pay that shit. Look, that was how much the Price is Right. The dollar value was $1.99
every time.
Bob Barker said so, and I will gladly, stand by that. So.
You know what I mean? So the hobby is what it is, but we also have to be aware of how these things influence the hobby, the way people collect and what they collect. But I will definitely pay the prices I'm paying for these books that aren't 9/8, and I will pay them real fast before somebody changes their cot dang mind, because I gotta go before you figure me out. But yeah, no, that's dope.
Absolutely.
So we at the end of the show. We don't got no giveaways. If you want to get some giveaways, go watch our other videos. There's plenty of things up there with some good books.
Yes, sir.
I'm not gonna keep putting stuff up to give away.
Yeah, click on those bubbles, man. We're gonna have
I don't
videos
even know
all
what the
over the
bubbles
place,
gonna
man.
be, but we'll pop them here at the end of the video. At the end of hit this, comment, just say something. But I forgot what we said, 13th and 20th, based on the video, but we'll throw those up at the end. Tomorrow, well, no, when we post this, it's new comic book day. What y'all reading?
Tomorrow is Wednesday. Shit. And it's also the October. What comes out? Fuck, I don't know.
I just picked up my books from last month, and it's funny because one of the books I showed in that last video of us going to that comic shop is actually coming out tomorrow. So Survival Street 3 is on my list. I'm pulling it up right now. Dark Ride is coming out, which is like this haunted amusement park that some young kid goes to, and he's like dealing with that. What else is on my pull list? I only got like 6 books. So I got 2 copies of Dark Ride. Oh, Monkey Prince 7. Monkey Prince has been having some really good 1 in 25s. Like, they're really, really good. I'm a big fan of them. And they do card stock on Monkey Prince now. So DC, thank you for the good paper. And then what is it? Kaya #1 Image Comics. I'll grab anything Image that's like new. So
that's a cool cover.
I'm always reading these indie books. Yeah.
That's a cool cover.
After their village is destroyed, a young girl with a magic arm and a fighting spirit is tasked with delivering her little brother to a faraway safe harbor. There, he is destined to discover the secret to overthrowing an all-powerful empire that destroyed their home. She got a magical arm.
Yeah. You pre-ordered that, or you going to pick it up?
I pre-ordered it, but I'm not so Jose's actually going to be here Thursday, so I think we're going to go to the comic book shop together. We're going to film something. Yeah.
Well, if they have another copy on the shelf, pick me up one.
No, I'll take 2.
Yeah, I don't think I'm reading anything new right now, but I am reading the Monstrous Volume 7 because I'll be doing the review show on JP's channel on October 19th. So it should be fun, interesting.
Word. What about you, bro?
Well, I said, fuck, I don't know. That was my response.
Oh, I thought you looked at your phone and figured it out.
No, I didn't. What I'll do tomorrow is I'll look tomorrow, see what came out, and then because I don't remember where I left off last week with what I was reading. If there's like a story arc that I was invested in, I'm like, all right, to be continued. Let me make sure. I don't know what the fuck I read last week. I gotta look again. I gotta go through my digital. I sound like such a granddad when I say I don't know. I gotta look at the digital. I gotta figure that out. That's where I am right now, right?
I'm looking at the digital.
I gotta look at the digital. I gotta help me with my phone, Victor. I gotta I gotta find out. So I don't know yet. All
right.
I think. What did I read recently though that was non-Marvel and non-DC? I did have a chance to read the relaunch, reboot, reset, if you will, of Buffy the Vampire Slayer comic from Boom Comics or Boom Studio.
Boom Studios.
Yeah, they because I read the original like season 9 when the TV or season 8 when the TV series ended, and then they continued it with the comic book form with season 8. And I know Joss Whedon wrote the first story arc, and then other writers pitched in. This is, of course, before we found out what a dick Joss Whedon is in real life. Sorry, but not sorry to his Joss Whedon fans out there. That might cause us to lose some subscribers, whatever. We
could lose some. It's okay.
But anyway, so so then they relaunched it. I think last year, the year before, and I grew up watching Buffy. I'm saying I'm diehard, so I was let me check it out. It was interesting. Yeah.
Have you ever seen any hard copies of what is it, season 12? Those books. Something happened. They got short printed, and there's like 4 or 5 of them that are like $150 in that run of the 12 seasons. Yeah, it's quite kind of crazy. But then there's these giant omnibuses of them that are out.
Yeah.
You can pick up.
Yeah.
Break someone's arm with.
No, really.
Word.
And they're like,
well, we tried to do that thing where we stood at 30 minutes, but it didn't happen again. So y'all get used to that.
Hey man, it happens when you talking about comics, man. It just goes.
So it just goes. Until the next time.
Peace out.
See y'all.
Deuces, y'all.